today. This Saturday, it goes down in Kansas City, Missouri, as Machado Garry steps into the main event spot once again with Carlos the Dart Ripper Prates. That's right. Your boy, he be on them cigs. Your boy Carlos, he be on them cigs, ripping darts all day. Give him a pool. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt. We are here to cover real quick the main event of UFC Kansas City, where Machado Garry will step in there in a 5-round war with Carlos Prates. This is a tricky one to call. Now, this is actually going to be a banger of a card. I'm going to make another video covering some other fights that I want to see, but I just want to focus on the main event real quick. Man, I really think that this is going to be a really good fight. Okay? And honestly, when you really look at it, it's a hard one to pick because early on in Machado Garry, IG, whatever you want to call him, early on in his career, the Wagmaster, all right, that was uncalled for. But nevertheless, the Wagmaster, I said it again, Ian Garry, early on in his career, man, he started out as a guy that it seemed like the UFC was going to prop up as a fan favorite. And somewhere along the way, whether it was over, social media, whether it was via Twitter fingers, or whether it was via interview, Ian Garry went left. And he pissed off the entire MMA fan base. Then once we all realized who his wife was, the way that she early on in his career interjected herself into his MMA career, because there's so many fighters that we all know, we all watch, we all like, that we have no idea who they're married to. You know what I'm saying? Most of them, we don't even know if they're married or single. You know what I'm saying? But we also don't know who they're married to. His wife interjected herself, and it totally backfired on her as well because she became a villain along with her husband. But something else changed. Early on, he looked like he was going to be a very skilled fighter. There was a few times he kind of got a little bit chin-checked early in his first couple of fights in the UFC, but he pulled through, still got the win, right? Then around the time that he was really enraging everyone, homie really started to show some skill in the octagon, especially with his setups on striking, the way he could set someone up to knock them right down, right? And then he seemed to pull back from the social media stuff, from the interviews, focus more on his skills, took his family out of the limelight, or out of social media at least, mainly his wife is what I'm talking about. And he accepts a short notice fight against Shavkat. And this was a fight that we all thought he was going to get murdered in. And he honestly did not look that bad in that fight. Like not at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's very, very interesting because he's kind of at a point where when you're looking at him, you're like, man, this guy, he beat MVP, Jeff Neal, okay. And maybe you can say okay to MVP, at this point, no disrespect, but who hasn't beaten Neil Magny? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, though, his fight with Shavkat really showed a lot of people that this guy's skilled. This guy's got a slight bit of dog in him. And he's been working on his grappling. He trains with Charles Oliveira, or at least he was at that point in time. So he'd been working on his possible submission setups and grappling. So he was looking to be like, okay, this dude might be something for real, right? And he did well against Shavkat. Granted, Shavkat was injured sometime during that fight, but still, he did well against him. And we all thought he was going to get finished or subbed quickly by Shavkat. So with that being said, you're going into this fight with Carlos Prates, right? Who's a knockout machine, a KO artist, a finisher. If you're going to call this man anything, you're going to call him a finisher. He's poised. He stays calm. He's calm in the pocket, calm in the fire. You know what I'm talking about? He doesn't strike me as a guy that gets rattled. He doesn't strike me as a guy that is trying to figure out his opponent's game plan, thus rattling his own game plan, or that anything his opponent could do to him is going to rattle him. But you would still think, Ian Garry just went toe-to-toe with the guy that's going to challenge for the welterweight championship as soon as he comes back, which is Shafkat. I mean, the man comes with he comes to the octagon with a fur animal on his head, and Ian Garry went 5 rounds with that dude. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, you would lean, Prates hasn't had the same strength of schedule as Ian Garry. Hasn't been in there with the same caliber of opponent, So you would think you would lean completely Ian Garry. But Carlos Prates, and I might be fanning out, I might be believing in something that's not really there. And I'm cool with that. But his fight camp, his fighting crew, the fighting nerds, these dudes are approaching the game in such a different way. Each time that they go into a fight, their build up to the fight is slightly different amongst the different members. The stances that they take going into fights are different amongst the different members. The game plans are different. Each one of their fighters has his own skill set that he's, a specialist at. And all of the male members of the team have gone out there and wreaked havoc in the UFC thus far. And they strike me as a crew that is well versed in everything that their opponents are trying to do to them, and everything that their opponents are trying to do. And a lot of their recent fights, I'm talking about, your John Silvas, Kyle Brau, all of these guys, when you watch them fight, you're like, there's quite a few instances that you're picking against them, is what I'm saying. And then they shock you again. And even though some fights, they might be looking like, okay, he just dropped a round there, And they don't drop many rounds, but some fights, they might be like, okay, this guy just dropped a round. But then they come back and they end up winning the fight. Or they convincingly win on the scorecards. Very, very interesting. So it really makes you wonder, this is what makes MMA so hard to call, right? Because like I said, I would say from what we've been shown thus far, Ian Garry is the more skilled fighter, more well-rounded. Because he's definitely proven that he's been really working on his ground game, his back takes, trying to secure the rear naked choke, different things like that. But Prates is newer, a newer fighter, and we haven't really seen everything that he has in his bag of tricks. What we do know is that the man is an assassin. He goes out there, he weaves and ropes his opponents into his trap on the feet while standing. And then he strikes quickly and he puts them out. He knocks them out. You know what I'm saying? He's a hitman for hire. You know what I'm talking about? That's what we know about him. We don't necessarily know how good his ground game is. Not that we've never seen it, but we don't really know. We don't really necessarily know how good his grapple game is, despite, whatever you might hear out of the Fighting Nerds camp. So it's going to be a very, very interesting fight, and one that is extremely hard to call because Carlos has that unknown factor. And his crew is just proving that they're just running through the competition in the UFC on all ranked levels in a way. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be a very interesting fight Now, there's a lot to be said for, Ian Garry has been there before. He's been the main event. He's been in a 5-round war before in the UFC. This would be Carlos's first, his first main event. You know what I'm saying? So that could also, you could have some jitters. You could see and get a little bit nervous possibly, although thus far you don't really see too much nervousness, I feel like, coming out of the guys in the Fighting Nerds crew. But very, very interesting fight. At the end of the day, man, skill-wise, everything I've seen, over the years, I feel like I should choose Ian Machado Garry. But I ain't trying to be on the wrong side of history in this one. I got to go along with Carlos Prates to go out there and get the win. Thus far in this, like I said, this might be a fan take, but because I am a fan of all of them. But thus far, we just haven't really seen anything stopping them. You know what I'm saying? And when you got a skilled fighter, a true specialist, a knockout artist like Carlos, and you got that fighting camp behind him, creating the strategies, creating the plans, their game plans continue to work for each one of their fights, at least to get a decision win. I'm going to go along with Carlos Prates to go out there and defeat Ian Machado Garry in the main event of UFC Kansas City. You guys let me know who you're picking. Let me know how you see this fight. Do you got Ian Machado Garry winning? Do you got Carlos? Let me know. Let me know what you think, because your boy, I'm going to be all over Prize Picks. I'm talking about underdog fantasies, And, of course, still on DraftKings. DraftKings, holla at me. I've been out here putting y'all down for like 2 years, letting people know about y'all, telling people to bet with you all. Holla at me. You can get in on the ground floor of Matter of Fact MMA right now. But nevertheless, just let me know in the comments what you think, who you choose in the main event. And I'll be right back with you guys. We'll take a look at the rest of the card. So let me know what you think. You know what I'm saying? Throw it in the comments. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time.